Good afternoon, everybody. This is one webinar and one clip that I've wanted to do for a long time. A lot of people out there on YouTube and through the different groups probably know me from the work that I've done in Thai and cracking Thai fundamentals, but anybody who knows me from the language/polyglot sphere would know that I have a real passion also for all the languages of the region, and in particular Chinese. And so what I wanted to do with this clip today, and so I'm just going to pull up here, what the way these webinars work, I'll go between my camera here, and then I have a shared OneNote backdrop, which I'll be able to write on. So I'm just going to share this at the moment. You'll be able to see that on your screen now, I hope.
Yeah.
Got it.
You can see it? Okay.
Yeah.
So what we'll be doing today is I'll be covering these key points. Which Chinese should I learn and why? And then I'm taking this as if I was giving advice to myself as a new learner. What I want to know, but in saying that, anybody who has actually started learning Chinese or is quite proficient in Chinese, I think what we're going to go through today is going to perhaps show you some things that you're going to think, oh my God, I didn't realize that. And it might shine some light on something that was previously mysterious. And so I just got a warning there from my headphones. Okay, so we're going to look at which Chinese should I learn, why should I learn Chinese, then the grammar. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to go into super detail, but I want to show you what you're going to want to know on this stuff. We're going to look at Chinese tones, because one of the big questions that people ask is, you know, what about Chinese tones? And so I want to show, and they get a bit scared of them, just like Thai tones or other things. So I want to show you how easy tones are, especially in Mandarin. But the general tone system in Chinese, we can just, you know, do a quick whirlwind tour of it. And I think that it's going to take away some of the mystery. Pronunciation in Chinese, we are so lucky that there are some systems in place that allow learners of Chinese within the first few days to become up to a very proficient level of Chinese. Proficient level of pronunciation. I just see that I'm going to have to change my earphones because my Bluetooth is giving me a signal. One moment. And then finally, we'll be going through writing, how you would build vocab if you were starting out to learn Chinese. And then I might throw a bonus topic on. Now, that's a ton of work, ton of stuff that we're going to cover, but I want this clip out there. I might edit it down into separate ones finally when it goes on YouTube, but I really want this to be out there as a foundational clip for anybody who is using, who's using or learning Chinese. So let's get started. Which Chinese should I learn and why? Now, if you are dealing in a formal situation or in the mainland, Taiwan, Singapore, or just having to work in Chinese in general, if somebody speaks of it, you're speaking of Mandarin. So you're going to want a foundation in Mandarin no matter what you do. Even if you're in Hong Kong now, as for business with the mainland and in Chinese, Mandarin is the answer. I love Cantonese and I love Chinese dialects, and I have no shortage of books and learning materials in the other language. Sorry, just jumped over to Thai there. So I would highly also recommend, supposing you're living in Hong Kong, or if you're living in Singapore, at the same time as Mandarin, totally, just start to at least dabble in Cantonese, maybe Hokkien if you're in Singapore or Malaysia, because the reality is, as we're going to see, there are some things in those languages that once you have a grounding actually in Cantonese or in a southern dialect, they are actually much closer to the older system. And so once you know that system, Mandarin becomes a piece of cake. And if you have both of them, switching between them just becomes a normal thing. And you'll actually find many Singaporeans, Malaysian, Chinese, and even Hong Kong now, they'll just switch between dialects. So there's no reason to not learn those. Okay, let's get into the first topic. Chinese grammar. We call this 语法. 语法. Now, just to show you too, the character here, 语, means language, and 法 means rules or law. So language rules, grammar. That just goes to show you one thing about Chinese. The grammar is actually amazingly simple, especially for English speakers, because we have this subject, verb, object, subject, verb, object, like we would have in English. But I'm just going to, I don't want to get too deeply into the grammar, but just have a look at some of these. This is the character, 你, meaning you. So if you want to remember that, think of it, this is a person bowing down and he's pointing a finger saying, you, and there's a little kid sitting on the ground saying, what? Okay, so this is 你, you. Now, this next character is the character for eat. Anything with a little mouth like that has something to do with speaking or eating. So this is 吃, 你吃, you eat. Have a guess what it means. It means in English, you eat. Now, the word, now this is another beautiful thing. This character here, by the way, we've got a roof with somebody sitting underneath eating. That means 吃, which is food. Okay, and it actually means to eat in Cantonese, but anyone who sees that use it, whether you're Japanese, even Koreans, will know this character meaning food, something to do with food. And so what happens when you reduce this character down to the side of a character, anything to do with food will have this at the side of it. Most things to do with food or eating. And then it's reduced again in simplified just to that. Okay, so look at this now. This character here, 饭. 你吃饭, 你吃饭, you eat rice. So it's the same as if we had Thai or Indonesian, makan nasi, eat rice. Thai, กินข้าว, to eat rice. Chinese, 吃饭, to eat rice. So eat rice is just a general thing to eat. Very straightforward, and it's saying 你吃饭, that means you're eating, or you're eating rice, or you can just say 你吃, you're eating. Super simple, but now this is where it gets really cool. We have what's called particles, which resemble things that we do in English. So if I put this particle here, le. Now there's another pronunciation to this, which is from the older Chinese, liao, where we get the word lao in Thai. So if I put this word here, 你吃饭了,
you have eaten.
You have eaten, that's it. You have eaten. กินข้าวแล้ว, it's exactly the same. And so basically, this le is an already. Okay, I don't like having this. So I'll take the 吃饭 and just put this to make it simpler. 你吃饭. 你吃了, you ate.
Huh?
So that becomes you ate, because it's you eat already. Okay, so what this does here, it basically means it's passed into a new state after having done that. So 你吃, you eat, 你吃了, you ate, you have eaten already, so you ate. But you don't want to translate. Now, have a look at this. I'll go to this particle first. We have a particle here, ma, right? Which is basically a verbal question mark, just like mai in Thai. Okay, ma. Now you'll see it written like this is the traditional script. The simplified script is this. Okay. So, but again, we have this little square to the side of it means it's a voice, it's a vocal particle. So it's a part of speaking. That's a little mouth that sounds like ma. Okay, so this is, again, you're starting to get a feel of how characters are put together. You have a meaning component and a sound component. And so if I put 你吃了吗 here, what do you think that means? Have you eaten? 你吃了吗? And so the beautiful thing about Chinese is once you learn a couple of these particles, you could start stringing quite complex meanings and sentences together, and you've got full sentences. Let me just erase all of this. We have 你吃了吗? 你吃了吗? Have you eaten? Now, we have another word. Now, check this out for meanings. There is a hand. Wait, let me get this. There is a hand. This represents a hand. Picture the hand. And now, this character here, if by itself means moon, but just picture it as a piece of flesh that has been torn off of something. So anytime you see this in a character, mostly it means a piece of flesh or a possession because people own livestock. Okay? So if you have a hand holding a piece of flesh, it means to have. Yo. Okay. So you could say 我吃了, okay, but this I ate. But this is, I'll just write to have. But I could also write may is not may in Thai. Okay. May yo. So what do you think that yo may yo? This is to have, and this is not have. So have you ever heard a Singaporean speak? You have not have this. You cannot. Okay, so you have not means yo may yo. Have you or have you not? Okay, you have not. So it's basically a binary operation. 有没有? 吃饭. What do you think that means? 你有没有吃饭? Okay, 你有没有吃 eat?
And rice, food.
饭. 你有没有吃饭? So this basically 有没有 have you or not?
Have you or have you not eaten?
Yeah, so if it was in Thai, กินข้าวหรือยัง? Have you or have you eaten rice or not yet? So basically this 有没有 gives a sense of yet. So 有没有吃饭? Have you eaten rice? And so this 有没有 is used just like you would say in English. I have eaten rice. I haven't eaten rice. But you can actually add it into 有没有 have not you eaten rice. You get a selection, A or B. If you want to say I have, you just say the affirmative 有. If you don't want to, if you haven't done it, you say the negative 没有. And that goes the same with any kind of verb. So you can say the verb, negative form of the verb, and then whatever the sentence is, and that becomes how you put questions together. So you've got closed-ended questions where you can just use this particle, or you could use these ones where you're opening the question up to say, again, it's closed, but have you or have you not? But this is how easy, I don't want to go into too many, but there's actually a handful of these particles you can use that are going to get you up and running in Chinese. And especially for English speakers, the Chinese grammar is amazingly easy. 我 means I. Okay, everyone say that with me. 我. Okay. We have a possession. So in English, if I wanted to say Keith's car, okay, I would put apostrophe there, apostrophe S. So basically in Chinese, we have a particle. Everyone say it with me. 的. Okay. So basically this 的 particle is the equivalent of an apostrophe S. And so if I write, and now look at this character for car, 车 it's actually looking at a carriage from above. You can see the wheels on either side, the axle, and the carriage in the middle. So 车 is a car or a carriage. So 我的车, what do you think that means?
My car.
Yeah, this shows possession. Possession. Okay, so well, there you go. Possession. My car. Okay, if I wanted to say Keith's car, Keith 的车.
Keith 的车.
Yeah, 我的车. How would you say your car if 你 is you?
你车.
Yeah, 你的车. Okay, so I think for English speakers,
Wow.
these particles, you just learn a handful of them and it starts to become super simple. And you can start stringing sentences together. This is coming back to it. And so I really want to encourage people. When you look at Chinese, I get it. And if you read people and people say that Chinese is this beast of a language, and you know, and I've been speaking Chinese since I was very young, and I still learn every day. But that doesn't mean that you can't actually get functional in the language in a relatively short time. It doesn't have to take a long time. That's just a little insight into the grammar. I hope that I've whetted some people's appetites to show you actually that you don't need that much to get in, and I'll be putting more clips together in the future, going into details on different things. Now, let's go to one of the things that I love. If anyone knows me from my Thai lessons, I love tones. Okay. The first thing I would say, and apologies for that not clearing out yet, but in regard to tones, let me write this down. Do not count tones. Okay, and the same with everything. I hate it when people are saying, "Oh no, you know, Mandarin's really difficult. It's got 5 tones that you have to learn. Cantonese is super difficult. It's got 9 tones that you have to master." Stop counting. Stop counting. Just stop. You don't need to count tones at all. What I'm going to show you in this next bit is hopefully whether you're learning Chinese, you're learning Vietnamese, you're learning Burmese, you're learning Thai. From now on, any of these languages, you don't need to be counting tones and use the tones as some gauge of how difficult the language is. It's just ridiculous. It's not, this is just, you just don't have to compare it to English. That's the only thing which might be difficult. So stop counting tones. I'm going to show you a system. Can everybody just say these words for me? So there are a couple of easy concepts. We have, let me turn to a blue pen, unvoiced, or let's say voiced and unvoiced. Okay, so can everyone say the letter S for me? Okay, you got that sound, that's great. I'm hearing all these S's. Now, so S would be an unvoiced.
Right.
Now, there's a voiced version. We have, okay, Z. And if we look through English or look through any languages, any language that we speak, we'll see these pairings. So if I say T, we have a voiced version, is D, right? D, Z, right? So we have voiced and voiced. So, and then you've got these ones that are using the voice. We call them sonorants. But these are these mud, and in Thailand, in Chinese, they call them muddy or zuyin. So they're like what we'd call in Thai semi-vowels. They're these these kind of nasals and all of those that still use the voice. So what happened, let me just, if anybody has seen my clip on tones on the internet from like about 10 years ago, I see it's still going strong. What happens if I say a word like ka, with a big puff of air, right? Ka, courage, like the Cowardly Lion, okay? As opposed to ga, as opposed to ga, okay, where I'm actually I'm intentionally activating my voice. Could everybody just do this? Say ga,
Ka.
Okay, now you can feel your voice just kind of in the middle there. Ka. Now, what I want you to do is say ka with a big puff of air. Ka.
Ka.
Got it?
Ka.
What happens to your voice?
Ka.
It opens up. Watch this. Ka, ka. The fact that I need to put this big sound over it is pushing my voice down. Ka. And so if I just look at what's happened to the vowel that follows it, ka, as opposed to ka, the position of my throat by default knocks the voice down lower. Now I can tell you in Thai and even in Chinese we have this word 声调. It doesn't mean tone. It doesn't, like if you think in English tone, you're thinking of pitch, right? La la la, la la la, and you're thinking of highs and lows and going this. And this is like the Western perception of tone. So from anybody watching this clip, please, from this point forward, whenever you hear the word tone in a tonal language, do not think of pitch. Think of throat position. Okay? So if I tell you at the beginning of a letter, you have an open, breathy throat, and then it goes to a closed throat. Watch this. What happens to my throat? It naturally pulls up.
Yeah.
All right. Or if I say, can you go from a and then open your throat at the end? It's naturally got this falling feel. Okay. So Westerners look at the actual pitch and they try and mimic pitches and thinking they're getting the tones. If you want, and this is going to, and I challenge people who are Chinese teachers out there, but tones are in the throat. A tone is the difference, what the throat is doing at the beginning and end of a syllable. And so, yeah, you're going to get pitch graphs because this is what happens. But I see people learning tonal languages like Chinese and Thai and Burmese, and they'll say, no, this tone is exactly this pitch. No, it's not. You're just looking at the surface side effect of what tones are. Tones are just throat positions. You get the throat positions, you're going to sound much closer to native. And so what happened, these muddy voices, you know, yin and yang. I'm going to draw my little yin and yang up here. And so what happened, the yin sounds, so these are the yin ones, and these are the yang ones. So the young ones, the yin ones had a voice, and the young ones had no voice. Okay, and so what happened, it just turned out that in many dialects, these yin ones were in a generally higher point of the voice, and the young ones were in a lower portion of the voice. And so what happened then is you had, now Chinese traditionally did not have any tones. They had these end particles on syllables. But what happened is these little parts, so an apostrophe, they used to have like an S sound, like we would say cars, right? So what happened? Cars. It just happened that this S at the end started car. It would get dropped off and it would start to pull the throat up. So we have, and which caused the rising tone. So what we have is, I'll write them in Chinese here. You only have 4 tones, but I don't want to say tones. We have 4 throat positions. Okay, this is ping, which is normal. We have shang. Okay, ping shang, which means rising. So the voice lifted, the throat, but basically means the voice contracted. Okay, then we have chu, which means the voice went from that rather than all right? So chu means sitting. And we have ru, entering. And so the thing is with these ru, have you heard anyone speaking Cantonese or Thai when they say, did what very good? You want the sweet and sour pot and short and fly light. Okay, so this when your throat is cut off at the end, this is called a glottal stop. And so supposing I have this word, tek, this cuts it off. So the throat just cuts it short. That's what ru sheng was. Now, the beautiful thing in Mandarin is they don't even have any of these ru sheng. So basically, all you have are ping, sheng, and chu. And in Mandarin, the other beautiful thing, these voiced and unvoiced differences have basically gone. And so where in Cantonese, I'll just show you here, we have, this is your ping, and this is your low ping. This is the low section of your voice, ping. So if it's down low, I'll call these the yin, and these are the yang, okay? Sorry, it's the other way around. So if basically in Chinese tones, and this is because I know not everyone's just learning Mandarin, you've got yin and yang. Now they could change from dialect to dialect, but basically the higher portion of your voice to the middle is the yin position, and then from there down to the bottom is the yang position. So you've got a yang ping sheng and a yin ping sheng. And then you have, I'll get another color, you have the rising. So in Cantonese, you have a yin rising, and you have a yang rising. And then you have, oh, how did that happen? And then you have a, so that is, sorry, that rising is sheng, sheng. And then you have yin falling, so chu is actually down here, and it's here, ping, shang, chu. And they are the Cantonese tones. And then, you actually have ru, which are mak, mak, mak. And so if you're in Cantonese, you've got basically two sections of voice with three tones, and then these closed ones, mak, mak, mak. So if I was saying the word ma in Cantonese, you would have ma or ma, 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 and then into the yang section, ma, ma, ma. And then the entering tones, which are clipped at the end. So mak, 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 mak. And that's all the tones. Now, the beautiful thing that in Mandarin, all of those have gone. All of that, and it makes it super easy then. All you have is ping, ping, which is the level tone, normal tone, which is ma. That's the highest point of your voice. That's the lowest part of your voice. So I'll call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ma. That's the lowest point. The rising tone in Mandarin, ma. Say this with me, ma.
Ma.
Right, ma. But I don't want you to think of trying to get exactly that pitch contour. Basically what happens is your voice starts normal. It opens up like we did that open throat, ma. And then you quickly contract your throat, ma, ma. Right? Yeah, and as long as you're getting that throat position, ma, ma, you're going to get the tone right. Because sometimes the actual pitch might change depending where it is in a sentence. But as long as your throat's doing it, it's actually will sound much more natural. And in Mandarin, you also have the other ping sheng, which is from the yang, but it's turned into this. So this is, sorry, I missed out the second tone, which is, this is from the yin ping, the yang ping. Yang ping, and this is the yin ping. So we have ma, 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 and then finally the chu, the falling tone, which is tone number 4, which is ma, which is chu. So everyone say this with me. Ma, 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 ma.
Ma. Ma. Ma. Ma.
Right, so I'll say it again. So 5 to 5. Ma.
Ma.
Good. Now we're going to go to ma, right up to 5. So ma.
Ma.
Good. Now we're going to go 3. So it doesn't quite reach this, actually. It stops about here. So ma.
Ma.
Yeah, so look at the difference. Ma. Yeah, and then lastly, you start with your throat contracted and open it. Ma. Great. Ma. And ma. Start a bit higher. Ma. For that last one. So, and the way you write it is like this. Ma. So let's try that again. Ma. The ma, that last one, let it just from quite high and then ma. Right. And then you have what's called the 5th tone is no tone. And it's just this ma. It's just basically a voice is ma. And that's, so it's when it's a particle at the end and you just see that written with a circle over the vowel. So, shula ma, that ma, just in a almost just barely uttered voice is the 5th tone. But basically you have 4 key tones, but I don't want to say tone, 4 key throat positions. Okay. Does anybody have questions on tones?
No questions, Stuart.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go into Q&A, but I want to have this out there. And so for those people who are watching this in the future, come back and go over this over and over again, because the beautiful thing is that if you understand this, now there are a couple of things with, you know, closed throat versus open throat and stuff like that. But basically, this is the tone system of Vietnamese, of all Chinese dialects, of Thai, and anything that's basically, of even Burmese. You have creaky throat, stop throat. It's the same principles of tones. And so please just stop counting tones. Just understand that you have 3 basic throat positions. And because of the nature of the level of the letters, whether it's got a voice or whether it hasn't got a voice, or whether it's stopped in the throat, it just sets it into different registers of your voice. So your job in learning is just, okay, where do I put my throat? Yeah. And the beautiful thing is, in things like, you know, Mandarin or Thai, no language is actually going to separate into all of those 9 anymore. Oh, you've got Cantonese and a few of them, but even that, you can see the logic to it. And so they just merge together. And so it actually becomes a fun game to work out, okay, so if this is here, where does it shift? And the amazing thing with Chinese, if you go to a different province and you start keying in, because you know, oh, usually this one is ma, and here it's moved to ma. And so you can actually, you know, all the other words that are pronounced in this tone, and you can start shifting it. And you're probably going to have a very good hit rate of getting the tone in the new dialect correct, because they're all based on this same system. I love it. And when I go to learn a new Chinese dialect or a new tonal language, I will actually, you know, map out which tone goes to what. And it's a real fun game using it. Just lastly, if you really want to see a difference in tones, for example, in Vietnamese, they have similar tones, but so le would be your normal voice, but if they put this tone with a dot underneath in Vietnamese, this le becomes le, right? It's so you totally clearly, it's nothing to do with the pitch, it's the actual voice that in your throat position that's killing that. It just crunches in on the vowel. And it just happens when your voice does that, well, it's by default going to have a low tone. So as Westerners or as non-native tonal language speakers speaking a language, a tonal language, or learning a tonal language, stop counting tones. Just think throat positions, understand the positions, learn how the speakers of that language you're learning are doing the throat positions, and mimic them. And you'll get a much higher accuracy rate, and people will think, wow, 你说得很清楚，很标准, you speak really clearly. Chinese pronunciation. When you are starting out on learning Chinese, I highly, highly, highly recommend you nail your pinyin, Hanyu Pinyin. I'm going to write it here. Go in and Google it. Hanyu Pinyin for Mandarin. Okay, so basically, if you've learned a language like Thai before, you would know that the romanization, the transliteration systems used for the Thai language are abysmal. And there are fights everywhere, but there's, you know what, in Vietnamese, in Mandarin, Chinese, and even for Cantonese, you've got different systems like the Yale system and other systems. It actually can be very accurate, but you have to learn it as another script. Now, the fact is that on the mainland, every single Chinese kid learns Hanyu Pinyin, because the reality is, you heard just how we got our tones, and I told you that these tones map differently to different dialects. You can imagine a country as big as China, where everybody has their own dialects and accents and the way they pronounce things. And so to centralize everything into a standard, they have all kids learn the pinyin so they know what the standard is. Now, I'm going to show you something really cool here. For anyone who's learned Thai and looked at my Thai map of the mouth, and while we're doing that, I might call this up here. So I'm going to go into J Academy here. If anyone's there, you can actually pull this up. You don't know, it's a free resource. We're going to show you the map of the mouth. Let me just make sure I'm logged in there. I'm going to go into Indic Compass and show you actually how these, and resume course. So while that's loading, I'm going to come back here. Okay, so that's just loading up. So basically, if you think of the sounds, we have the lips. So say this, we're going to do this all in number one tone. So, p, m, f. Now I'm saying when you see people write it, they will actually write pa. They'll use the pa. Now you can see all of those are coming from the lips, right? So what are these two systems up top? This is pinyin on the left, and on the right you can see, or let me just use this one. Pinyin are the Roman letters, and this one is called Zhuyin. Yin means sound. So Zhuyin, and that's usually used in Taiwan. This is a phonetic system. So most Taiwanese will not read and write, or will not read pinyin. They'll phoneticize in Zhuyin, but they're exactly the same sounds. Okay, they're just different symbols to represent them. And so this means b. So if you're in Taiwan, you're probably going to want to learn this. Otherwise, it's just enough to learn the b, p, m, f, the Roman letters for Hanyu Pinyin. So now let's move to the next one. We have d, t, n, l. So watch this. We've got the teeth. Teeth, hard palate. So we have d, t, n, l. Say it with me. D, t, n, l. Good. And notice how when I'm doing my d, I'm not saying d, d, d. I haven't got this spitty sound. It's d, d, d. It's coming. It's very soft, coming from. If you take your tongue and roll it back from your teeth, and you find that hard palate there, d, d, d. It's coming from there. So d, t, n, l. All those four sounds are coming from exactly the same spot. Okay. Say it once more. D, t, n, l. Yeah, Keith, I would say knock your voice up a whole octave. Don't feel stupid. Better. Yeah, much more clear. Now, we have the back of the throat. If anyone who's learnt Thai and done my Cracking Thai Fundamentals program, this would sound familiar. It's just in the opposite direction. Now, this is not a G like we have in English. You will notice this is actually an unaspirated P. This is actually an unaspirated T, and this is an unaspirated K. But they've just chosen the letter G to write it. Okay, so this would, if it was in Thai, would be your gao gai. Okay, so this is ge, ke, he, ge, ke, he. Yeah, right. So we've got pe, pe, me, fe, de, te, ne, le, ge, ke, he. That's right. Simple, right?
Yeah.
And now, and so we've got those three key point positions in our mouth. Now we're going to get these affricate sounds. So affricate means you hear the friction sound there. So we have affricate versions. So I'm going to write those in another color. And so if we take it here now, we have, see where these are taken from. So if we do the friction versions of those, we have, and these are basically palatal sounds. Ji, chi. Now X, people see X and I hear Westerners who don't know this system, they pronounce it all wrong, but ji, chi, shi. Not she, but she. Keep it level and make sure you're smiling and puffing a thin, almost like a sheet of air, a flat horizontal sheet of air through your teeth. So, chi, chi, she. Beautiful. That's so good. So you can see I'm smiling when I'm doing that, and it's all through this palate. The same position, the same point of the mouth where I do the de, te, ne, le, that I just flatten my tongue and I make this flat strip of air. Ji, chi, shi. Good. Now, watch this. Say de again.
Yeah.
Now, where we did this ji, chi, shi, I'm going to move to the other side of it. And now can you put your tongue, feel this little ridge between your teeth and that palate? Can you feel it there? Where your gum meets your teeth. Okay? I want you to say this. I'm going to do these sounds first. Okay? So this is zi, ci, zi. So it's like, almost think of like a TZ. Zi, zi. It's right at the tip. And it should be coming out. Watch what happens if I close this gap in my teeth. It kills it. And you notice to make that sound, my throat has to actually be this active muscle. Almost. Now, you notice how the sound of the I actually changes from this ji, chi, shi, it's gone from an E to an U. That's because the throat's closed up now and the mouth is not lateral. Better. And then we have a version of those that are a lot more meaty that come back to the, and I'm going to write these in, say, red. And so these are actually, you see the H in there. So what happens is, have you ever heard it when the Indian people are talking like that? The reason why the Indian people are talking like this is because we have the retroflex sounds. It means that you've got these, or cerebral sounds. Your tongue comes into the top of the mouth, right? And they are talking like this. So in Chinese, we actually have these sounds produced from that top part of your mouth, except your tongue is flat against the roof. So watch this. Zhi, shi, shi, and the R is, you can almost hear, if you say zhi, je comprends pas, right? This je from French, right? It's almost doing this except you pull back on it a little. So it's you can hear a little bit of friction in there. That's it, Keith. I heard it. And the way to get it, you don't want to push the air from your mouth. You want to push it from your lungs. So listen to me say these 4 sounds. 吃吃吃日 That's good. That's good. So if for a word like person, 人 you hear a little bit of friction there, like a zh, but it's not fully zhed. So it's 人 So if I wanted to say Chinese person, I'd say 中国人 Yeah, 中国人 Thai person, 泰国人 If I want to say American, 美国人 Okay, so it's this if I want to say it's really hot, 好热 Yeah, so yeah, it's a bit too much friction there, but some people say it like that. You probably want to get a little bit less friction. And this is the beautiful beauty of learning. You're not expected to watch this once and get it perfectly, but I'm just showing you this beautiful system. And so you have basically just gone through the entire consonant system of Chinese. You can say the sound of every single character of every single consonant. So let me read it through here. I'm going to read across this Chinese map here, just so we can do it in the Chinese order. Ready? I'll do it in groups in each of the groups. You say it after me, after each set. That's good. You can do it high voice. Yeah, that's good. I just say, just be aware when you're doing it. Don't say like I got it. I know that like you have got it, but just make sure you're keeping that your voice is there and it's not really wavering. Your throat's in that constant position. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now let's move to the next line. Good, and I can hear that you're getting this glottal which is great. 很好, right? That's really good. 很好. 非常好. Wonderful. Now the next one. 机器系. Good. You see that smile. 机器系. As you say those JQX ones, just imagine this flat sheet of paper is just coming out of your mouth, almost like out of a printer. 机器系, it's this lateral sheet of air. 机器系. Beautiful. Now let's move it back into the roof of the mouth and do this cerebral one. So 知吃是日. Good. And then finally, teeth, the tongue at that point where the teeth meet the hard part, so the teeth meet that little bump ridge behind you, the alveolar ridge. So it's yeah, the S doesn't have a voice, so it's good. Good. So now watch this. If I write anything now we haven't gone over the vowels, but if I go into, can you see my screen on the browser at the moment?
Yep.
Okay. So if I come into Google Translate, this is the wonderful thing learning Chinese in this era. Let me just pull that up here. Translate google.com. You can. So if I typed in here the word China, even without listening to it, look at the pronunciation there. How would you say that?
Oh.
Wow.
ZH, so that's 2 syllables. So, but ZHONG, we haven't done vowels at the moment, but how would you pronounce that first one, do you think?
Right,
Remember, it comes from the roof of your mouth if it's got that H in there. Yep. And then this one, remember, it's like the gokai, so it's from the back. So have a listen to me. 中国.
Oh, 中国.
中国. So it's 之中. Yeah, you don't, and this is something I should mention here. It's not a 中国. Don't think it's zh. Okay, it's got this attack on the beginning, so it starts with your throat closed. 中国.
中国.
Yeah, beautiful. 中国.
中国.
Perfect. And so the thing that I'll mention is the first one of all of these. Let me get my pen, my highlighter. Just like in this column here, your throat is closed. So if you say the word spy, you can feel your throat when you get to the P, it closes. So spy, by, okay, so your throat needs to be closed at the beginning. We don't have that in English, but we have it in a lot of other European languages. So pero in Spanish, right? They have the throat closed at the beginning. They don't say pero unless you're from California. So your throat's closed in Spanish. In Chinese, the same. This first column, your throat's closed. So I'll just read these down. 啵, 滋, 的, 鸡, 知, 个. My throat is closed at the beginning of all of those. So if I come back here, 中, say it with me, 中,
中
国.
Guo.
Yeah, so this G is not a G like we have g, but it's yeah. Let me give you another one. What's very hot? So I know what the letters will be. So watch this. 很热.
很热.
Perfect.
很热.
Actually, but if you really just say it in Chinese, we'd probably say 好热. So say it 好热.
好热.
Yeah.
好热.
And you could 好热. I don't know if you could hear the system audio, but you can actually go in and listen to those. So I've covered pinyin, Hanyu Pinyin, and the thing, I haven't gone through the vowels, but the vowels actually, you can see here, one thing I would mention, in the vowels, you need to define between this French u versus an u sound. That's about it. And you'll notice that, so if I say the difference between these two sounds, I'll get my pen. So if I say this sound, no, versus this. And so this one is nu. So basically, to make that one with the umlaut on top of it, you have to put your mouth in the pattern of an wait, what is it? Yeah, so you put your tongue in the pattern in the position for an e, but your mouth goes in an u position. So it's u. So that becomes nu, which means lady. Okay, nu. And this is no. Okay, no, nu. And that's probably the main thing that people have difficulties. Other ones are quite straightforward. The sound you guys have been nailing, which is fantastic. But anyway, like this is not one lesson and you're going to speak Chinese, but I'm just showing you an overview of all of these facets. Have you learned something new so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do I like most about Chinese? Actually, I love everything. I said I love tones, but man, I love writing too. And many people say, I want to learn a language, I want to learn Chinese, but I don't need to learn how to write. And a lot of the time it's because they're scared off, because it's so strange. And I admit there is a learning curve to learning the Chinese script. Now, let me just show you something. In the beginning, we had 1, 2, 3. That's easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3. Now, think of that as the heaven, the sky, and the earth. The person who reigns over all three is the king.
Ah.
Wang. Okay, it's pretty cool. Now, to have the king under one roof, you have the entirety. Everything you ever need is there. So that means entire or entirety. Oh, Chuan. Now, the thing that the king likes to keep in his pocket that has value in case he has to slip it out for some quick cash to pay for something is jade. The thing of, so this is yu. Everyone say this with me. Yu.
Yu.
Now say king. Wang.
Wang.
Chuan.
Chuan.
Yu.
Yu.
Yeah. Now, when the king, though, the thing that is really of value that he keeps a lot of, so he's got a lot in his pockets and he keeps it under a roof. This is jin, gold.
Jin.
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 Got it. Pretty cool, huh?
Very cool.
So the reason I did that, okay, not all characters look like what they mean.
Mm.
However, what happens is that once you know a few of these, just like hieroglyphs, well then anything to do with metal from now on is going to have this thing next to it. We call a radical, 部首. Okay, so but for example, the word for copper, 锡, this is a sound, 一 or 锡, which is a metal. So this is the metal thing that sounds like 锡. Oh, that's copper, because native speakers knew the words already. And so this is how characters are built up. You have ones that look like it, but then you have ones that you have meaning components and ones that they already know the sound to put together to make new words. I'll give you another example. In the olden days, it's not really this one, but basically a woman carrying the buckets as the slaves. Now, some people will say that she's actually sitting beautifully down with her legs crossed. But in any case, this character here is woman. 女, which we just learned now. Say it with me. 女.
Nu.
Not u. Remember, it's the umlauted one. So 女.
Nu.
Not nu. 女. So say u with your mouth, I with your tongue. I, u. 语.
Nu.
女. Closer. It needs to be a little more sharper. 女. 语.
Nu.
That's better. That's better. Okay, so 女. All right. So that's a woman. A woman with breasts is a mother. So this is a mother. This is more. Okay? A mother under the roof, the household roof, you've got everything you need. And so this is 每, meaning every. Now this is water. That's like the deep part of the river, and then the water gets shallower on the end. So basically that's been changed into this character, right? But sometimes you'll have 3 drops of water representing water. So the water that is everywhere, because it's like a mother under it, is the sea or the ocean.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
It is
So-
very cool.
So, and oh, by the way, so the way you would say this, water is shui,
Sure.
shui, and sea or ocean is hai.
Hi.
Okay. Hi.
Got it. And so, the word Shanghai. We'll get a load of this. No, well, we're on a roll. Above, below, makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So this is Shang, and this is Xia. So above is the thing above the line, below is the thing below the line. So what do you think this is?
Over the sea. Over sea. Above the sea. Boat.
Sky.
Shanghai.
Ah!
You got it?
Oh.
Shanghai.
Oh,
So-
Shanghai.
And so now you know it's not Shanghai, it's Shanghai.
Shanghai.
Shanghai. Yeah, above the ocean, which it is. It's looking right above the ocean. So this is, I love Chinese because it's just beautiful. The meanings, everything is just it's an art. I hope I don't insult any Vietnamese here, but because I learned Vietnamese through the Zhinom, they used to use the Chinese characters, pardon me. And so when I look at Vietnamese, whether it's a Vietnamese character or Chinese, I just know which character it's come from. And it's much easier to learn and it makes so much more sense. But if you look at modern Vietnamese, it's written in the Latin script, the Gok Ngu, and it loses all of this rich meaning that in just looking at one character, you see how much depth is actually there in the meaning. So yeah, I love Chinese just because we can do this. Now, I just want to show you something for those people who have already started learning Chinese, and for those who haven't, the way that you write, you notice that the stroke order, first of all, is important, but everything is balanced. Have a look at this. So if I do, again, this is a tree, right? Now, when I'm writing it slowly, it doesn't look that balanced. But this is a tree, mu. 2 trees is a forest. Lin. And so if you know any Chinese people who their surname is Lin or Lam in Cantonese, that's their surname. And then 3 trees, Sun is a forest. So this is a woods, this is the forest. Very self-explanatory. But anything in Chinese that has to do with wood or building or something will generally have this tree radical on the left-hand side and then whatever its meaning. Okay, but one thing I just wanted to show you is when I write the the word for east, by the way, is the sun rising behind the tree. So that means dong, east, which is where we get Dongjing. Dongjing is Tokyo. That's the old pronunciation, Tokyo. All right, which is that it means the eastern capital. Have a look at this. This is the character that I said for I. War. Okay. Have a look at how you can see that every character, there's this shape. And let me pull into, this was one of my favorite books. I'm going to do a whole series on this. I'll just pull my camera up too. Can you see my face now?
Yeah.
Okay. Have a look at this book. This is an amazing book. It's all in Chinese. You'll see the green pulling out on the green screen there. it's called 写好钢笔字的书, how to write beautiful Chinese writing with a pen. But basically, it's all about balance. And so, and they talk about it here, where say you have a match there, you'll see that a match is balanced. And if as something gets bigger, this would be unbalanced. And so writing every single Chinese character, there's a beautiful, beautiful balance to it. And so if you have a look here, this page here, it will show you, you see that trapezoid kind of shape. And then on this, basically the majority of Chinese characters are going to be in this kind of shape. So if there's any advice that I would give to anybody learning Chinese, do not just think of the characters, there's these little boxes or anything. Get that shape into your muscles. Okay, it's going to become you. The way that you write Chinese and the way that your muscles form, it actually has a huge effect. And the stroke order has a huge effect. So if you see this, just even a box. So let me change colors. I'm using green. So if you see, you will never see a box like that. There's no, basically when you write it, this is how you think. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then as you get faster, 1, 2, 3. Right? So anything like that, to the point it goes to that. But you notice a box is not a box. It's in this shape. If I was to write this character here, so see how, even though like if you actually see it on the computer, it might go flat there and there. This is a hand holding a weapon going out there, oh, down. But that, it actually looks unbalanced. When you're writing it, getting the angles right is everything. Okay. Stroke order is everything too. However, when you start writing faster, there's actually an unwritten law of stroke order for writing fast. So that one, if I was actually writing fast, would end up being something like this. Okay, but it's fun, and to challenge yourself to learn how to write that is amazing. The other thing that I'll mention between, let me just delete everything off of here. We have simplified versus traditional. So basically, Chinese calligraphy is beautiful. This is I'm going to write the character for book. You have a hand, so it looks like a hand, holding a pen above paper, writing something down. Shu, that is book. Right? That's right. But people, you know, when they went through this whole reform, they thought, look, that's just crazy amount of strokes. And when people write fast, they actually wrote like this. So now in the mainland, Shu is written like that. Okay, this is called 简体字. This one is called 繁体字. 繁体, which is complex body. And this is 简体, which is simplified or simple body. Okay, so some examples. Have a look at this. This is dragon. It's got a lot of strokes. Long. And then this is dragon for the simplified. What they've done, if I write this one fast, watch how I write it. So what they've done is saying, look, when we're doing calligraphy, I'm just going to take this portion of it here, which became that, which became that. So now in the mainland, when they write dragon, they'll write it like that. I personally like that version of it better. I just think it looks cooler. And you can see in my Wag the Dragon series, actually, if you have a look at just above my head, you can see it's the top part of the dragon that I've used as I've turned into a stylized version for my logo. Top part of that. But the question, the reason I'm going through simplified versus traditional. So where will you use traditional? In Hong Kong, in Taiwan, Macau, mainly using those. And so if I show you these books here, and you can see, oh, that's probably not good with that color text because you'll see through it. This is a Taiwanese book. You can see the old style shu written on there. So these books are written in the traditional. If you go to the mainland, you will see, your text written like this, and they are the 简体字, the modern form. Learn both of them, because actually once you learn the traditional, the simplified ones are much easier to learn. Also, I highly recommend you go to any Chinese bookstore. You can get things like books like this with the boxes, and you learn to write. Also, if you have a phone, I'll show you here. I'll pull up my phone. I have an app here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, and it's green too, so it's probably going to get the red screen on the back. But this is the app that I use, and so if I wanted to write like Cheng, you can just use your finger for practice there, or if you want to write the running writing version. But this is really great therapy. Just if you're learning Chinese, just sit there with your characters and sit there and write. Get your tools, get your pen and start writing out. You can also get your hands on one of these, which is a marker. When you hold the pen, you're holding it like this, and you can see the tip on the end here. It's got ink in it, but you get quite a brush feeling, so you don't actually have to go and use the ink and get all messy. But to the question, do I need to learn to read and write Chinese? You don't have to. You can survive and learn fluent Chinese just using Hanyu Pinyin. However, don't expect any native speaker to use Hanyu Pinyin in communication. They will be using normal Chinese characters. And so through not learning to at least read, you're going to cut yourself out of a whole world of life in China, because in WeChat or everything's done in Chinese. Messages are sent through subtitles. Everything's done in the Chinese characters. People will not write in Hanyu Pinyin. So yes, you can learn Chinese to a fluent level, but you're basically kneecapping yourself. You're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Get yourself some good resources. And this brings me into the final part, just before I'll open to questions, and that is vocabulary. How do you build that up? And that's all important. One, tools like Glossica, of course, glossica.com, and I have Glossica's dictionary, Chinese dictionary here is amazing. It's got like 10 different Chinese and Japanese and Vietnamese, every country that's ever used the Chinese characters, you'll find them in this dictionary. So get yourself some good dictionaries to start building up. Get yourself some good books. And there are tons of resources opposed to, say, Thai or Lao. To learn Chinese, you've got unlimited books and amazing resources. Start off with a few easy level ones and go through, but then also subscribe to things like ChinesePod.com. Start reading subtitles on movies, and you can actually download SRT files. Go into Google. And like one thing that I would do, have a look at this. Let me share my screen again with you. Share. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so one thing that I might do is say, now these are all my languages here. I'll just go to here. I'll say 新闻 for news, just to get a Chinese language news. So bang, I've got the BBC in Chinese. And so there is this cool plugin on Google Chrome. So let me just pull this one up here. Okay, that works. The plugin is, no, that's Japanese. This one here, Chinese tools. So if you've got Google Chrome, you can go to Chinese tools and watch this. I'm going to highlight just this portion of it here. And then if I click on, you can do the whole page if you want, but if you're just learning, now look at this. Supposing I want to generate vocabulary list. You can do a ton of things with it, but bang, 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 bang. I wait a moment. It pulls in. Check that out. That is amazing. So that news article, I've just created an entire learning set of words and lists and everything for me. And you've even got the pronunciation there. Not only that, watch what happens. If I get a Google Sheet, so I'm going to just open a new Google Sheet. Let me just, so this is, I'm showing, this is one, you know, I do this with all languages, but for Chinese, it's super, yeah. So basically, if I get that URL now, and I copy the URL, and I come into that spreadsheet just now, I'm just going to add another sheet. I don't know if other people know this function on Google Sheets, but it's very, very powerful. Basically, what it does is you can import that whole vocabulary list that we just built there into a Google Sheet. We've just pulled in that entire list there. And so every single news article you can create your own list, and you can bring your vocabulary in and learn those and create lessons. And because it's in data format now, you can actually export these to Anki and build your own flashcards and do all of this stuff because you have it now in data form. And then if you want to build your own dictionary from all of these, like you'd cut and paste them because that's still importing them. I go to another sheet, and to keep them forever, because if that page goes away, that thing will go. But to keep them forever, you just go here to paste. Oh, no, I don't want. You basically, go. You say paste special, and it will, you just say values only, and it will paste only the values. Come on, come on. Almost done. And then on Google Sheets, you also have plugins that will automatically do the pinyin for Chinese characters as well too. So that's the other thing. Like, there are so many ways that you can build vocabulary. As for the writing, okay, this is another thing that I would highly recommend for people. You can get these books, and you can actually get brushes and dip them in water and just drag them on these books, and it will come out black. Okay, so it's very cool to learn how to do the characters and the strokes, like we were talking about. And then I have you have other kids' practice books where you can practice handwriting, and they actually have like adults who have written, and then you just trace over the handwriting, and you can develop. There's so many different things you can do. So for vocabulary, there's no end to where you can get resources of Chinese from. WeChat, install WeChat, start speaking to people, start reading news and things. And because you have Pinyin, as long as in that first week, if you do your Pinyin as well as you just did in that practice session that we did earlier, you're speaking pretty clear Chinese. I would say, Keith, you know, within a day or two, your Chinese would be at a level where if you read anything and you said it to a Chinese speaking person, they would understand you very clearly. Okay, so learn your Pinyin, start getting vocabulary, build an environment up around yourself. And then lastly, the last point that I said that I was going to talk about is, you know, Chinese names. And I'm going to put a clip out about how to use Chinese names. But the thing is, should you have a Chinese name? My Chinese name is, I'll write it here for you, Wang. Now, you already learned the character for king. Huai means to think. 乐 Wang Huai Le. Now that is actually quite a Chinese sounding name. That's in the tradition. That's in, sorry, the simplified script. If I wrote in traditional Wang Huai Le, you can see this is a guy shaking his maracas because he's so happy. So that means happy or music. I like the traditional. So Wang Huai Le, it means, now this is a very common name. That means king. This means to deep thinking. And this means happiness or music. So you can see that kind of relates to me. And that name was put together many, many years ago. And it works for me when I'm in China. The good thing about it is many Westerners, when they go to China, they'll say their name is David. They'll get a name like Da Wei. And so as soon as a Chinese person hears that, it tags you as a foreigner. And they will interact with you based also on your name. Now, having a foreign sounding Chinese name is one step, but I would encourage you, if you're really looking at spending time and doing business in China, try and get somebody to put together a name that has a meaning and actually sounds like a Chinese name, because what I found is using a Chinese name in China and doing business really, really has a different effect, and people speak to you differently. So that was the bonus point for this clip. I've covered a huge amount of ground, I think, in just over, an hour and a half. I hope that this has given a good overview of the Chinese language, things that you're going to be coming up against. I hope I've taken the mystery away of some things, and hope I've explained, some things, maybe they're not that easy, but there is a way. There's a system to it. So I'll hand it over to you. Maybe we can do like 5-10 minutes for anyone who wants to. Who has a question? Who has the first question?
Yeah, I've got a question, Stuart.
Yep.
What is the best way to learn the Pinyin alphabet? Is there something that you could recommend where we could read and listen to it and basically drum it in?
There, can you still see my screen?
I can.
Okay, so if I come here to YouTube, that's my channel there. There are hundreds of resources. You can do that. And starting at YouTube, if I say learn Hanyu Pinyin, bang, and let's just see how many hits that we get up there. Look at that. It's just Hanyu Pinyin, Hanyu Pinyin, Hanyu Pinyin. There's so many resources there that you can do. You can get your charts there. There are online tools. There are apps to do it. But because basically this is step one for anybody learning Mandarin.
Yep. Okay.
And I highly recommend that you don't really go any further until you've got your Hanyu Pinyin down to, 85, 90%. It doesn't take that long. You almost had it just now, Ivan.
Okay.
But don't, just nail it and get a Chinese person to listen to you pronounce it. I will say something about Hanyu Pinyin. Can you still see my screen?
Got it.
Okay. People from the north, you'll hear what's called erhua. So if I wanted to say qi shui is carbonated drink, like a fizzy drink. We have in Mandarin this thing called an erhua. So you heard them talking like this with the tongue down. So qi shui becomes qi shui. 公园, a park becomes 公园. So you want to go to the park and play. 要不要去公园玩? 非常好玩. And so you've got this right in the back. So 知, 吃, 吃 are very, very northern sounds. If you learn from somebody from more southern China, or definitely Taiwan, there is no distinction, or very little to no distinction between 知, 吃, 吃 and 滋, 吃, 思. So for example, if I say this word, this here, oh, I nearly wrote on my tablet with my actual Chinese pen. If I write this, 40. Say that for me. 40.
40
That means,
40
that's 40. 不是不是 is not is
Yeah.
14 okay 40不是14 40 is not 14 okay 14 10 and 4 is 14 now somebody from Taiwan would say that 40不是14 okay so what you'll find is and this is my suggestion to you learn accurate pinyin first.
Yep.
So get the distinction between the zhi, chi, shi, zhi, and get it really like meaty in there. And then depending where you are, you might be able to lay back on it a bit. So if you're in Shanghai and you're further south or you're speaking to definitely like Hong Kong, they won't say zhi, shi, you know, unless they've spent a lot of time in the north. They will say, you know, for 40, 40, or if for 吃饭, they'll say 吃饭. So this 吃, everything's more to the front. Be very aware of that when you're learning, because if you do want to do business later in Beijing, say, and you speak with a very sort of southern accent, they might look down on you. It's just the way that it is. There's some sort of prestige to this, to people who can really get clear 标准 Hanyu Pinyin. But again, it's where you are. If you're in the South or if you're in Taiwan and you speak like everyone there, well, then you'll fit right in and they might like it and they might look down on you if you speak too Beijing-like. It all depends. But yeah, so that's just saying, find the right resource, but make sure that you're getting the right pronunciation. Because I've seen some stuff out there that's sort of teaching you and you can tell their accent and it's not very Biaojun. If somebody from the North heard it, they think, so I would learn the right one and then just pull back a little bit. We've covered a ton of ground here, and I think I'm going to break this into several clips, and I'll put this up on YouTube. Thank you for being there. I've wanted to do this for a long time. I thought doing it in a webinar format might be better than doing a million takes and still not being happy. We just put it all out like this. If you want more, I'm going to be developing a lot more resources for Chinese. Both for the language and the Wag the Dragon series is more doing business across Asia, and there'll be a big focus, of course, in Chinese-speaking countries. And I just gave a presentation last week in Mandarin to a bunch of Taiwanese investors who are interested in Southeast Asia. And this is the exciting thing, coming back to why learn Chinese. There's so much business going. You know, I spent, a couple of weeks almost of every month in China for this past year. And there's business going to be back and forth. And the fact that I can speak Chinese has opened doors to me in business that just wouldn't be there. And things that the way people deal with you. For example, rather that you hear all these times that Westerners get screwed in China. And we could have been in a situation. I jumped on a plane in one situation and I sat with the CEO of a company. He came out by himself, not with the rest of his team. And we just spoke heart to heart in Chinese, and he let me know that, yeah, this sort of has happened and these people have come in, wanted to invest with us. So what we agreed on is probably going to change, just giving you a heads up. So rather than them not knowing how to communicate or having to go through translators and so they just end up screwing you, you're in a position where you can build warmer relationships and actually have a much nicer business experience in China through speaking Chinese. So for me, that is one of the big things. The other thing is the Chinese community all over the world is often the heart of the business community. So if you speak Chinese, if you speak Mandarin or Cantonese, again, and you go in there, you've got, this access into a business community that many other people don't in other cities outside of China. So learning Chinese, is very, very rewarding. As you've just seen in these past, 90 minutes or so, it's just fascinating. Everything about it is fascinating. So don't look at it as something that's going to be a chore. Just look at it as every day you're going to be amazed, blown away, and it's going to set your mind on fire. And I hope that I can inspire you to get into your Chinese more.
Well, you definitely inspired us, Stuart. No doubt about that.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks, guys. I look forward to seeing you soon. And tell everybody about it. I'll put the links up soon. And yeah, hope to see you again. Bye.